me today is Jason Malec with the American Bible Society. Jason, you were a big part of conducting this research for, having Barna conduct this research for ABS. Mm-hmm. American Bible Society, a lot of people don't know this, but it's just celebrated 200 years, or bicentennial. That's an incredibly old organization. Like the founders of American Bible Society are some of the founders of our country.
Indeed.
Tell me, what is the American Bible Society doing today, and how are they staying fresh and relevant with what's going on?
That's a great question. Yeah, there aren't a whole lot of 200-year-old organizations around these days. I like to think of ABS as a 200-year-old startup. And what I mean by that is, as you mentioned, there's a tremendous legacy, incredible legacy of leaders over the years who have done translation, printing, and distribution, both here in America and around the world. And that legacy runs deep. But we look at the next 100 years. We really are setting our sights on really our third century of ministry. And innovation is an enormous part of what we're doing. And so therein lies the 200-year-old startup mentality. We have a lot of really, really creative folks who are helping us to serve church leaders and those around the world to engage the Bible.
So ABS has got all of this research, which can be found, by the way, in this Bible in America report that you put out in conjunction with Barna. And some amazing things in here. How are you guys taking the research and putting it into action? What are some of those things that, when you looked at the research, you're like, wow, this is a shift in how Americans are interacting with the Bible that we, as the American Bible Society, need to address and the church needs to address?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I think the research is critical because that obviously informs strategic ministry. Empirical research is valuable, but we also are doing a tremendous amount of listening on the ground. So in partnership with pastors, parachurch leaders, and other leaders in business and government, education, and elsewhere, we're doing what we can to listen and then contextualize scripture engagement resources to empower and equip church leaders and her constituents to engage the Bible.
So are Americans reading their Bibles? We have like, what, 3.7 Bibles per household in America, something like that?
That's right. So over the past 6 years, we're actually in the process, in collaboration with Barna, of doing our 7th year of research in the state of the Bible. Over the past 6 years, we have seen some trends that are both encouraging as well as perhaps alarming, eye-opening at least. The number of people who are what we call actively engaging the Bible has gone from about 20 or 21% down to 17%. Perhaps that's not so alarming, but on the opposite end of the spectrum, the number of people who are skeptical, or actually the percentage of people who are skeptical about the Bible, meaning their perceptions towards it are actually quite negative, at least neutral if not negative. The number of people who are skeptical has gone from 10% to 21%.
Wow.
Now, it doesn't take a professional statistician to know that's an alarming data point.
That's a huge shift.
6 years. So that's something that we are definitely keeping our eye on and trying to collaborate with partners to determine what can we do about that.
And what are you seeing the difference between people that are Bible engaged and people that are kind of in that friendly and neutral category? Like probably turning a skeptic, I would imagine, would be a really difficult thing to do.
Yes.
But there's the majority of the population is in that middle category that's saying, hey, I'm either friendly toward the Bible or I'm neutral toward the Bible.
Yeah.
How can people that are engaged help engage those in the middle?
Wow. That right there is, I think, the question of the century, quite literally.
And you've been a pastor, and so you've worked with congregations. As pastors, how would they kind of go about doing that in their communities?
Well, maybe to back up just a little bit, one of the, I think, pieces that informs that question is perceptions toward the Bible, not just their behavior or engagement with it, but perceptions toward it. We've done a tremendous amount of research to understand what do people actually think about the Bible. And what we've learned is that there are obviously positive perceptions. People believe that the Bible is a good thing. But there are also some neutral and even negative perceptions. We've been able to distill those negative perceptions into functionally 2 buckets. The first one I call product problems. And this may come as a shock, but the first product problem is that the Bible is a book. The Bible's a book.
Which is an improvement over scrolls, right?
Well, yes, yeah, that's true. But in an era when readership is in dramatic decline, we as people of the book have to ask the question, what do we do about that, right? So product problems, in addition to it being a book with decreasing readership, other observations or negative perceptions are that the Bible is perceived to be old, boring, confusing, and irrelevant to my life. So those are product problems. If that weren't bad enough, we also have distilled and identified what we call people problems. And that is, it could be summarized like this. I believe the Bible is going to somehow make me feel badly about myself or those I love. So if we're to tease that out, the Bible in many ways is perceived to be anti, fill in the blank. Gay, black, women, minority, tattoos, drink, I mean, you name it, right? The Bible is anti-me. That's one of the greatest negative perceptions today.
Because people aren't reading the Bible, so they don't know what it really says.
Some are, and maybe they don't know how to read it, but many aren't and are listening to us Bible people, and somehow the messages that they're hearing aren't encouraging them to read. So that's one of the greatest challenges for us.
Great. Well, we really appreciate everything that you're doing at the American Bible Society to help us in the church understand what's going on in culture, something that we definitely need to look at. The Bible in America report is something that you may want to take a look at, some really great insights there about how people are changing their attitudes toward the Bible and the contents of the Bible and readership, things of that nature. Then they could be key for any pastor.